forefront? Is that still in the cards? Or will the players' ego not allow them to agree to this deal? Is a 50-50 rev share split the hill that they want to die on? Are they saying, you know what? You can give us whatever offer you want to give us. We're not going to accept anyway. Because if they don't accept this deal, what more can the owners give up?
Okay, so that's not excitement you're hearing. That's pure frustration because the WNBA just put a contract on the table that should end these negotiations immediately. I'm talking maximum contracts over $1.1 million, minimum salaries jumping from $78,000 to $220,000, average player salary hitting $40,000 to $60,000, and the Players Association leadership might still walk away from it. So we need to ask the obvious question. What exactly are they negotiating for at this point?
WNBA's current CBA proposal includes a max salary of more than $1.1 million. We heard reports of $1 million. We heard reports of $850,000. And now we're hearing $1.1 million, the biggest number yet. I don't know what they're paying these ladies in Unrivaled, but that seems more than competitive. Much more than competitive.
Let's put those numbers in context. I mean, the current CBA, which expires November 30th, caps rookie minimum salary at $78,000. Veterans at the bottom of rosters make around $62,000 for the season, and the maximum contract right now sits at $241,000 annually. So this new proposal doesn't just improve those numbers, it obliterates them. We're talking about a 182% increase in rookie minimum salary, a nearly 400% jump in maximum contracts, and these aren't incremental improvements negotiated over months of back and forth. This is the league saying, here's everything we can possibly give you without bankrupting franchises.
Maybe Project B is putting some pressure on the WNBA, like, you know what? We got to offer $1 million contracts. You know what? We got to give them $1 million contracts. We at least want to retain some of these ladies. If anything, Project B's the alternative after the WNBA season. That's what they're thinking. If anything, Project B is the alternative after the WNBA season. They're not going to go to the Euro League. They're not going to go play in Australia. They're going to go play in Project B. Get your $1 million here. Get your $1 million over there in Project B. Unrivaled seems, I don't have their finances, but this can very well price Unrivaled out of the market.
And here's what makes this particularly significant. The proposal includes revenue sharing, which has been the Players Association's primary demand since they opted out of the current CBA back in 2024. And it's not just a token gesture, it's actual revenue sharing that grows annually over the length of the deal. The league is giving them the framework they asked for, the salary increases they demanded, and the financial security they said they needed. But there's a complication nobody's talking about publicly, and that is the three people leading these negotiations for the players. Nneka Ogwumike, president of the Players Association, already took money from a league called Project B. Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, the vice president, they're co-founders of Unrivaled, a competing 3-on-3 league launching in January. So the people negotiating on behalf of WNBA players have direct financial stakes in leagues that compete with the WNBA for talent and attention.
In the league, you're not negotiating for yourself. You're negotiating for the other 170 plus ladies in the league. You're negotiating for the Juju Watkins coming in. You want Juju Watkins to come in and not have an American professional league to go to? That seems very selfish. You want Sarah Strong to come in and not have a professional league to go to? You want Hannah Hidalgo to come in and not have a professional league to go to? You want Malaysia Fawali to come in and not have a professional league to go to? You want AZ Foot to come in and not have a professional league to go to? You want to make them dance with one arm behind their back like a circus clown in Unrivaled? You want to have them make a moral choice whether they want to go to Project B?
Think about what that conflict of interest means in practical terms. If Unrivaled succeeds, Stewart and Collier become wealthy beyond anything a WNBA contract could provide. And if Project B establishes itself as a legitimate alternative, Ogwumike's early investment pays off significantly. But both of those outcomes require one critical condition. The WNBA cannot become so lucrative that players have no reason to pursue alternatives. I mean, a maximum WNBA salary of 1.1 combined combined with the endorsement opportunities that come from playing in the most visible women's basketball league in the world, that changes the calculation entirely. Suddenly, Unrivaled isn't where you make your real money, it's where you go to stay sharp in the off-season, if you go at all, and Project B becomes a novelty instead of a necessity. Now look at this from the perspective of players who aren't part of that executive board. Dana Evans, averaging 6.8 points per game for Chicago. Michaela Onyenwere, fighting for rotation minutes in New York. Dejanai Carrington, who just broke through as a key contributor in Connecticut. These players don't have ownership stakes in competing leagues. They don't have the endorsement portfolios of a superstar. What they have is their WNBA career, and they need that career to be as financially rewarding as possible.
You are taking money out of their mouth. You're not doing them a favor. You're doing them a disfavor. Let's get right into it. WNBA latest CBA proposal would put max salary over $1.1 million with revenue sharing, AP source says. Let's get into it. The WNBA's latest collective bargaining proposal would include revenue sharing with a maximum salary of more than $1.1 million.
The urgency in that question matters because of what's coming. Juju Watkins is eligible for the WNBA draft in 2026. Paige Buergers, assuming she stays healthy, enters in 2025. Hannah Hidalgo, Malaysia Fulwiley, Amisa Morrow, the next generation of stars is already visible, already building massive followings, already preparing for professional careers. And if there's no 2026 season because negotiations collapsed, those players have to make a choice. Wait a year and hope the WNBA resolves its labor dispute, losing a full year of earning potential in career development, or sign with whatever alternative league offers them money, fragmenting the talent pool and potentially damaging their long-term marketability by not playing in the Premier League. And that's not a hypothetical concern when the current CBA negotiations hit a deadline on October 31st, because both sides agreed to extend talks through November 30th, and that extension wasn't automatic. It required both parties to acknowledge that failing to reach a deal would damage the league irreparably. And Commissioner Kathy Engelbert said before the 2025 All-Star Game that she was optimistic they'd have something transformational done in time for everyone to celebrate it at the 2026 All-Star Game.
Are you looking out for Michaela Timpsons of the world? The Damaris Dantises of the world? The Julie Alamans of the world? The De'Erica Hambys, the Azurá Stevens? Are you looking out for them? Or are you guys only looking out for your little fan club, the executive board of the Players Association? You guys only looking out for your little selves? Are you guys looking out for, I don't know, a Rebecca Allen, a Marina Mabry, and Ari McDonald? People familiar with the WNBA's latest proposal describe the plan to the AP as a highly lucrative package, providing substantial increases over prior years.
That comparison. Paris and the Project B reveals the pressure the WNBA is feeling. Unrivaled is paying players $100,000 just to participate in their 3-on-3 league over 6 weeks in Miami. And that's meaningful money for players who currently make $78,000 for an entire WNBA season. Project B, whatever their exact financial structure, is positioning itself as a full season alternative with competitive salaries. So the WNBA's response make it financially impossible for those leagues to compete. A player making $1 million in the WNBA with the platform and endorsement opportunities that come from playing in a league that's finally getting national television coverage, and mainstream attention isn't going to abandon that for a startup league. Offering similar money but a fraction of the visibility, this offer essentially says to Unrivaled, you can be our off-season development league, but you're not going to be our rival. And it says to Project B, you're not getting our stars because we're paying them what you can't afford to pay.
Big salaries. I'm telling you right now, if I'm Caitlin Clark, if I'm Asia Wilson, I am calling these ladies. I don't know if Caitlin Clark's going to do that, but if I'm Asia Wilson, I'm calling Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Aneka Ogwumike, and I'm putting my foot up their ass. Seriously. Guys, my dream is not to play in fucking Project B. My dream is not to play it Unrivaled. I'm putting my foot up their fucking ass. If I'm Asia, I'm swallowing my pride and I'm calling Sabrina. I'm swallowing my pride and I'm calling Caitlin. We got to be on a unified front. The three of us got to be on a unified front. And we got to go head to head with those three and let them know we're not taking part in this bullshit that you guys are taking part in. We don't want to do Project B. If we do,
That's the scenario that should terrify everyone who cares about women's basketball, not because Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, or Caitlin Clark would struggle to find somewhere to play. They'd have options. Unrivaled would write them massive checks. International leagues would create special contracts. They'd be fine individually, but the league, the infrastructure that's taken 28 years to build, the television deals that finally put WNBA games on ABC and ESPN in prime time, the corporate sponsorships that are finally treating women's basketball as a legitimate investment, all of that evaporates if there's no 2026 season. And here's what makes that particularly frustrating. The players who would suffer most from a canceled season are the ones the executive board is supposed to be representing, not the superstars with endorsement portfolios and alternative options, the role players making minimum contracts, the rookies who need the WNBA to exist so they have somewhere to start their professional careers, the veterans hanging on for 1 or 2 more seasons to secure their pension. Those players need Naka Ogwumake, Brianna Stewart, and Nefatsa Collier to put aside their competing business interests and negotiate in good faith for what's best for the collective, not for what's best for Unrivaled's business model, not for what's best for Project B's market positioning, for what's best for the 44 roster spots in the WNBA.
I don't want to put too much pressure on Asia Wilson, but just I get that vibe from her that that she'll be at least, that she might not rally Sabrina and Caitlin, but she'll at least call Stewie and Fee and Aneka Ogwumake with her braggadocious self and be like, hey, the fuck are you guys doing over here? And if I'm Caitlin Clark, you want to stay in the dark, you kind of want to keep your image, smooth. No problem with that. But you better get word to Aaron Kane, who's also Nafisa Collier's agent.
Here's what makes this moment so critical. The last time the CBA expired, in 2019, both sides agreed to a 60-day extension and eventually ratified a new deal in January 2020. The negotiation happened before the pandemic, before the social justice movement of 2020 brought new attention to women's sports, before Caitlin Clark's arrival created an unprecedented mainstream interest in the WNBA. The leverage has shifted dramatically since then. The league has more money than ever before. Television ratings for the 2024 season broke records repeatedly. Attendance surged. Merchandise sales exploded. The economic case for paying players significantly more is stronger than it's ever been, and the league is acknowledging that reality with this offer. But the Players Association opted out of the current CBA in 2024 specifically because they wanted to capitalize on this moment. They saw the momentum building. They recognized that the league's financial position was improving rapidly. They made a strategic decision to renegotiate before the current deal expired, betting that they could secure transformational improvement. And now they have an offer that delivers exactly what they said they wanted. Revenue sharing, dramatically higher salaries across the board, a minimum wage that makes it financially viable to play in the WNBA without needing to play overseas in the offseason. A maximum salary that rewards superstars appropriately. Benefits improvements. A softer salary cap that gives teams more flexibility to build competitive rosters. So what's the holdup? If this offer doesn't meet the Players Association's stated goals, what additional concessions could the league possibly make without fundamentally compromising the financial viability of franchises? Because there's a limit to how much money exists in the system right now, and this offer appears to be pushing against that limit. The 50-50 revenue split that some players have mentioned publicly as their ideal outcome, that's not realistic for a league that's still building its financial foundation. The NBA doesn't even give players 50% of revenue. They get approximately 50% of basketball-related income, which is a narrower category that excludes certain revenue streams. And the NBA is a 78-year-old league with established profitability across all 30 franchises. The WNBA is 28 years old. Several franchises are still working toward consistent profitability. The league's overall financial picture is improving rapidly, but it's not yet at a point where a 50-50 split makes sense. Mathematically, the owners aren't going to agree to a deal that guarantees losses, and the players shouldn't want them to, because unprofitable franchises don't last. This offer represents a middle ground that acknowledges the league's improved financial position, while respecting the reality that the WNBA is still growing. It gives players immediate substantial salary increases. It establishes a revenue-sharing framework that will grow as the league grows. It creates financial security for players at every level of the roster. So if the Players Association rejects this offer, they need to articulate clearly what what they're rejecting it for, not vague statements about wanting to be valued appropriately, specific numbers, specific revenue sharing percentages, specific benefits improvements, because from the outside this looks like the league saying yes to everything reasonable the players asked for. And if this offer isn't good enough, if the executive board walks away from 1,000 minimum salaries and revenue sharing, and we have to consider the possibility that they're not negotiating in good faith, that their competing business interests are influencing their decision-making, that they're willing to sacrifice a season, and potentially the long-term health of the league to benefit their own alternative venture, that would be a betrayal of every player in the WNBA who doesn't have a backup plan, every rookie counting on the draft to start their career, every veteran who needs one more season to qualify for pension benefits, every role player who's finally making enough money to not have to play overseas year-round, just to survive financially. Aja Wilson should be on the phone with the executive board right now, making it clear that this offer needs to be taken serious. Caitlin Clark, who's about to sign the most lucrative endorsement deals in WNBA history and has every reason to want the league to thrive, should be applying pressure. Sabrina Ionescu, who's built her entire brand around being a WNBA star, should be demanding that the executive board explain exactly why this offer isn't sufficient, because if there's no 2026 season, if negotiations collapse and the league goes dark for a year, the damage will be catastrophic, not just financially though. That would be bad enough. The momentum the WNBA has built over the past 2 years, the mainstream attention it's finally receiving, the sense that women's basketball is on the verge of a major breakthrough, all of that disappears, and it won't come back easily. Casual fans who started watching because of Caitlin Clark or because they saw highlights on social media, they'll move on to something else. Corporate sponsors who finally started taking women's basketball seriously, they'll redirect those marketing budget. Television networks that gave the WNBA prime time slots, they'll fill that programming with something more reliable. The WNBA has spent 28 years building to this moment. This offer represents the league's recognition that the moment has arrived, that players deserve to be compensated at a level that reflects the value they're creating. Rejecting it doesn't make the Players Association look strong or principled, it makes them look unreasonable. So the question for Nneka Ogwu, Make, Breanna Stewart, and Nafisa Collier is simple. Are you negotiating for WNBA players, or are you negotiating for your own business interests? Because right now, those two things appear to be in conflict, and if you choose your alternative leagues over the WNBA, you're not just hurting the league, you're hurting every player who doesn't have the luxury of owning a competing business. The deadline is November that the offer is on the table. $1.1 million maximum contract, $20,000 minimums, revenue sharing that grows annually, everything the Players Association said they wanted, except it or explain specifically why it's not enough, because vague statements about wanting to be valued aren't going to cut it anymore, not when the numbers are this clear.